Newcastle. Obviously, Eddie Howe, even though he has Newcastle flying, with one of the 5 teams remaining who have not lost a match yet in the Premier League, him and Paul Mitchell have been at the center of a pretty inflamed, tensionous time in the behind the scenes at St. James Park. Is he still a potential manager to get sacked, even though they're playing so well, or are they going to figure this out behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think there's confidence from all parties that they will get this figured out. I don't see any sign of Newcastle trying to force Eddie Howe out of the club or him possibly leaving. As you said, they've had a very good start to the season, unbeaten, sitting in 3rd place, and as I said, picking up results, which I think obviously the Newcastle fans were a bit worried heading into the new season that the squad maybe wasn't strong enough, having not made too many signings in that summer transfer window as well. But I think if Newcastle have all their top players fit, they can be a test for anybody in this Premier League. There's no doubts about that. That'll be the key. If they can keep these players fit, they had so many injury problems last year, and it really hurt Eddie Howe and how high Newcastle could finish last season as well. But yeah, Eddie Howe for me, there's no real panic over him, despite the tense reported relationships with Paul Mitchell during the summer transfer window. The summer transfer window is now fully closed. All focus is on the players that are at Eddie Howe's disposal, and we all know Eddie Howe he's a great coach, and I think during his time in Newcastle you've seen that he has improved those players with his training, and I'm sure he'll be confident that he can get more out of those players as well over the coming weeks until January, and then they might revisit the situation. But yeah, Eddie Howe, lots of credit in the bank at Newcastle. He's still got all the backing of the hierarchy, so there's no thought of any possible managerial change there right now. And I know Eddie Howe's focused just on these games and continuing this fine start to the season.
No doubt, and there is one other rumour flying that's always been swirling with Eddie Howe since Gareth Southgate left the England job. Could he still potentially be in line for that job if things don't work out between him and Paul Mitchell?
Yeah, he'll always be a name linked with it due to his success in the Premier League with Bournemouth and Newcastle. I'm sure there'll be some England fans who would see him as a very popular choice to replace Gareth Southgate. Maybe his style of football would go down well with the England fans. But obviously Lee Carsley is there as interim manager for England and has done really well. And it seems like the English FA are just going to follow what they did with Gareth Southgate, who got promoted from the 21s up to the senior squad, and that worked seamlessly, and so far it has worked with Carsley as well. And Carsley has been giving out the vibes that he was very much up for taking this job on a permanent basis, which maybe wasn't the case when he first got appointed, but it seems the players are really enjoying working under him as well. So I think it's Lee Carsley's job to lose right now rather than anybody else taking it. But Eddie Howe, he's always going to be linked with the England job. Wherever he's at, he's one of the brightest young coaches in England, and he's himself admitted that he's never hidden his desire that he would love the opportunity to manage his country one day. But I just think the timing probably isn't right now, and Lee Carsley's in the box seat to replace Gareth Southgate on a permanent basis.
No doubt about that. And then finally with Newcastle, are there any links to a manager that Paul Mitchell likes, like that maybe he's worked with in the past, that you could see coming in if him and Eddie Howe can't figure it out?
There's been no obvious links. As I said, I think Eddie Howe and Newcastle's got the full backing of the hierarchy. There's no thinking or process going on right now that there's any managers being lined up to replace Eddie Howe. Obviously, they'd have to do something if something was to happen with Eddie Howe and he decided to leave. But yeah, I think that job is pretty safe now with Eddie Howe. There's been even talk that it might be Paul Mitchell who would be the first casualty rather than Eddie Howe if there was to be a change in that structure at Newcastle United as well. But yeah, obviously Newcastle under the Saudi backing, they're going to be attractive to a lot of people if there was to be a change in managerial situation. But I don't see that happening in the near future.